Welcome to the Following Films podcast, where we dive deep into the world of cinema with the filmmakers, artists, and storytellers who bring movie magic to life. On today's episode, I'm joined by legendary VFX artist Alec Gillis to talk about his involvement with Shout TV's Double Take series, where celebrity guests curate and host double features. On April 5th, Alec is hosting a special marathon in celebration of Roger Corman's birthday, a fitting tribute, considering his early work on Battle Beyond the Stars under the legendary producer. But that's just the beginning. Alec's career has spanned some of the most iconic sci-fi and horror films of all time, working alongside visionaries like James Cameron and Stan Winston. He's also brought cute creatures to life in fan favorites like Tremors, Monster Squad, and Starship Troopers. Today we'll discuss his journey into the industry, his passion for practical effects, and what fans can expect from this upcoming Double Take event. So sit back and enjoy my conversation with Alec Gillis. Hey Alec, how are you today?
Hi Chris, how are you?
I'm really well. Oh man, it's like looking through my childhood, looking at your background there.
Oh, yes, I've got quite a display.
Oh my God. Wow.
Room. Yeah.
That's the room that I want to have in my heart of hearts that marriage will not allow me to have if I want to have a happy marriage.
It won't allow me either. That's why it's all in my studio.
You professionally, you at least have an excuse at that point. Mine is just trying to relive Monster Squad for the 1,000,000th time or something along.
That's not a bad alternate reality to be trapped in.
No, not at all. The summer that I saw that, I felt like it was one of those things where I didn't know it at the time, but my geek trajectory was solidified that summer. So it was just, there was no turning back. I'm 48, so that was that.
How old were you when you saw that?
Oh, God. So that would have been 88, if I remember correctly. So I would have been, like 11, 12, something like that, depending on when the summer it came out. So
that's the magic. For me, it was the original Planet of the Apes that summer.
Oh, yeah.
And I saw that movie about 10 times, me and my brother, when movies were in theaters for 3 months.
Exactly.
But I think I was about 9, and that was like, just fried my brain. Just blew me away. Well,
you did that with another one of your films to my 9-year-old right now, Tremors. I just showed him that earlier this year, and he loved it. There's a couple things, just kind of look away here and there, but he absolutely loved the way these big worms would move through the sand and all that stuff, and the sense of humor that it had and everything like that, that he got to sort of dip his toes in horror. And, he's reading Goosebumps and stuff like that, but this was the first sort of adult scary film he was able to watch.
I tell people exactly that, parents, I say because I have 4 kids, they're all adult. Mm-hmm. I was very cautious about what I showed them when, because I didn't want to dive them right into the, hardcore horror. I want pay that out a little bit, let them be children. And Tremors is a perfect primer for horror fans, young, and I usually say that around like 10, 11 years old, depending on the kid, a little earlier maybe, because there's like no bad people in the
no,
and even the worms, I always side with the monster, because even the worms, what are they doing? They're trying to eat. That's what they're trying to do. They're doing what nature does, and it's kind of, and that ensemble of the cast is so wonderful, the humor and the tone and all that stuff. See, that's one as whenever I think of script ideas and stuff, that's always looming in my mind as really, like, no pun intended, it's perfection. It is close to, particularly for low budget films, which is we're here to talk about Roger Corman, so that's.
That perfect segue into that, which, I mean, those sort of, that kind of, it's that film that it looked great, but it was really the story, I think, that mattered above all else with that particular one, that you got the cast right. You got the, the effects were right in that thing. And, you don't notice any of the rough around the edges stuff that you might see in other low budget films. You just completely throw yourself into it.
And it's charming too, because it's the setting is so rustic and funky, and
Mm-hmm.
the setting's clunky, and the people don't talk, like sophisticates, and I think that's part of why it has aged so well. You see, Kevin Bacon's got a mullet and denim jeans and all that, but these people are kind of stuck in time. They're off in a little, backwater town, and it all kind of is perfect.
Oh, I could not agree with you more. But to go on to the Corman, you had the pleasure of knowing Roger Corman a little bit in your life. So how did you meet him? Because I mean, I think a lot of people might not realize how much this one man influenced and shaped today and for generations to come cinema.
Yeah, that's very true. In fact, I didn't know who he was until I got an opportunity to interview at New World Pictures. And I was only 19 years old. So
oh, wow.
I think I could be forgiven. I knew exactly who Ray Harryhausen and Charles Schneer were, but
okay.
Roger Corman. So I had to find out, and then when I found out, like, oh my God, this guy's done, I've seen these movies,
yeah.
And I interviewed, with Chuck Comiskey, who was the visual effects supervisor on Battle Beyond the Stars, and also with Robert and Dennis Skotak, who were the miniature effects guys who went on to win Oscars for Aliens and The Abyss, and they're my visual effects mentors. And
a pretty good crew to come up with.
Yeah, not bad. There was one other person named James Cameron who was there. I don't know what became of him, but he was also, I carpooled with him actually from Orange County for about a year. So there was a lot of conversation. I knew about Terminator long before the world did.
Oh, wow. When you heard it, did you think this is a great idea, or was it something that was interesting, but if you can make it work?
Well, I knowing him at that point as I did, I thought he'll turn this into something fantastic. Because we would talk a little bit about the Yul Brynner character in Westworld and that sort of thing, the relentlessness of it and all that. But the way he Cameron has the ability to take everything to its maximum conclusion. He said he had a dream about and I think it was inspired by these long drives that we would drive from Brea. That's where his house was. Mm-hmm. I was in Santa Ana. He was, I was living with my mom, and he was living with his first wife. And then we would drive, and it would be like you drive in the morning at the, worst, traffic. And then you drive home dead tired after a 10, 12, 14-hour day.
Sure.
And just like literally on the freeway, and you just sort of would go into this zone where like lights were passing you instead of you hurtling along the freeway at 80 miles an hour. But that's when he was saying, I had this crazy dream. It was a wrecked car on fire and a metal skeleton, human skeleton stood up out of it. And I was like, that's crazy. But and he did offer me work on it, actually. He wanted me to be involved with the stop motion of it. But I was at UCLA Film School after my Corman. I did a Corman stint that was Battle Beyond the Stars, and then I got into the UCLA Film School, and I started going there. And then I would take a quarter off and work on Galaxy of Terror, for instance, right?
Sure.
And then I would moonlight and work on Android, and some other of the smaller Corman films. But I was like, sort of like, okay, everybody wants to make your robot movie. We'll see. I don't know how the movie industry works. It all seemed far fetched to me.
Sure.
But Cameron has a will unlike most other human beings. Certainly, not too many I've met have a.
No, he's pretty singular from the outside. That's for sure.
Yeah, and the talent to back it all up. So I didn't work on that. I didn't stay with him because we worked closely together at Corman's. Mm-hmm. But when I split off to go, he advised me against going to film school, by the way. He said, I don't see the need for it. And he didn't need it. He didn't need it. So that was kind of where we separated. But he did recommend me to Stan Winston. Mm-hmm. And Stan was working on the effects by the time production had started on Terminator. And Stan called me, and I was working around in makeup effects at makeup effects shops and doing various things. And I was unable to work on the Terminator because I had taken another job on Friday the 13th, Part 4. And I'm like, we're going to kill Jason, so I'm sorry. And it's the final chapter. There'll never be another Friday the 13th. But I did get I did wrangle an interview out of it with Stan. So I zipped over, in my shitty Volkswagen Fastback without air conditioning. And I showed Stan my portfolio, and he kind of went through it like about that fast. Okay, great. Let me know when your commitment is over. And I thought at the time, I was like, wow, he didn't really look very closely at my portfolio. And so I didn't know what to make of that. But I called him as soon as I was available. He said, great, get over here. We're going to be starting a movie called Invaders from Mars.
I love that one.
Remake of that. Yeah. And it turned out that Jim had given me such a good recommendation that it was a perfunctory meeting to Stan. He looked at stuff and went like, yep. And I actually learned, he gave me a bit of advice when I was hiring people for him a couple of years later. I was put in charge of that as one of his right-hand men. And Stan said, listen, I got to tell you, these meetings, these portfolio meetings can go on forever. The trick is take the portfolio from the person and go through it at your pace. Don't let them page through it because everything, they want to dote over every little thing. What they don't understand is my eye is better than theirs, and I will go through it at my pace.
I know I know we're over time at this point, but I did have one question I wanted to ask you, just to kind of wrap things up. What do you think makes a good double feature?
Oh, interesting. Well, I don't think either movie should be very long. I'm a believer in short films anyway, which is partly why I love horror films, because they tend to be a little shorter. But that's one thing. I guess that's interesting. When I would go to double features, my father would take me to these things we shouldn't really see. He would take me to the Marine Corps base, and I'd watch like a Fulci movie, and then When Dinosaurs Ruled the Earth. And what I liked about that kind of mix-up is that first you get to see When Dinosaurs Ruled the Earth, and you get to see, what's her name, Victoria Vitri or whatever, and Jim Danforth's amazing, spectacular, and then you're like, that was good. Okay, and as a kid, your mind is preparing yourself to see the gore next, and then you're like, ooh, so maybe I would say that, like the first movie, both should be short courses. The first course is sort of visual splendor and lighter fare, and then you go into the heavier stuff after that.
I think that makes perfect sense. You're starting with the sorbet. You have something that just kind of cleans the palate a little bit, something that prepares you for the meal, and then just throw it all out there on the second one.
These days, it's hard for me to make it through a single feature because all these movie theaters now have reclining seats and beer.
Oh, even good movies that I'm really into.
Oh, me too.
It's just, I have kids. So come 9:30 at night, if I'm sitting in a recliner and I'm leaned back that far, it's, Black Bag. I fell asleep in it twice, and that's a wonderful movie. I had no business falling asleep in that thing.
I end up, if I go to a movie, I go to movies by myself a lot. If I do the full shebang, I'm like, I just took a $40 nap.
You know what though? Sometimes I'll pay $40 for a nap, and that's okay.
They're comfy.
It's not bad.
They're
With
very
no
comfy.
awesome. Well, thank you, Alec. It was a pleasure to meet you, man.
Before we go,
Yeah, please.
Can I what am I trying to say? Shamelessly plug.
Oh yeah. Please.
So we have a movie. My company, my production company, has a movie out that we developed in house. We raised funding for it. It's an independent, low budget film. Speaking of Roger Corman, I love low budget films, and I love the spirit of Corman. But it's called Wellwood, and it's a sci-fi horror film. And it's available on Amazon, Apple, Vudu, and it's got a bunch of practical effects. If you follow me on Instagram, Alec_Gillis, there's a link in my bio where you can get it. But it's available as of today.
Love that. Excellent. And at the very least, if nothing else happens, you got one rental today. I'll watch this tonight. So done.
That's one more than we had 15 minutes ago.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this, Alec. Okay. It was really nice to meet you, man.
Thanks a lot, Chris.
I could have done this for the rest of the afternoon. So honestly, man, great to meet you.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.